Today on Travel Rolly Podcast, we have Mr. Chris Fear. Chris went on the recent trip to Scotland with us in July, and he's been going for about 4 years now. This is his fourth trips to Scotland. He's been to Ireland as well. So he's recently become a fan of links golf, and it's now his favorite. He's also a member at the same golf club that Jeff is as well, Moray Golf Club, and we'll talk about all that. Please enjoy.
Alrighty. Welcome everyone to another series of podcasts. This one is Travel Royally, and we're thrilled to have Chris Fear. And Chris is a friend of mine I've known for about 10 years. We belong to the same golf club on the south side of Atlanta. We're also members of the same golf club in the Scottish Highlands. It's called Moray Golf Club. Chris is a competitive golfer. He plays off a 5, but he's a +3 when it comes to sticky toffee pudding. He's an expert on that topic. We'll talk about that. Chris has been with us on a handful of trips. He's been 4 trips to Scotland, 1 to Ireland. And Chris, welcome to the Travel Royally podcast.
All right, thanks, Jeff.
Hey, Chris, I'm not going to give you any more strokes in Scotland. That's BS.
Well, first thing you need to learn is don't hit driver on every hole.
You took advantage of me.
Well, what these guys are talking about, everyone, is that in July, there were 6 of us, 5 of us in Scotland, plus a friend of ours joined up. And we played a lot of golf in July in Scotland and had a wonderful time. We'll talk about some of those experiences. It was Hayden's first trip, and
I learned.
He was quick to learn how to what to hit in the wind. So,
yeah.
Anyway, well, let's dive in. Chris, tell us where you're from originally, because some people, I don't think Hayden realizes where you're from.
Yeah, originally, I'm not from Atlanta originally. I'm originally from Southern Illinois, so probably closer to Kentucky than it is to Chicago. So it's kind of in the farmland of, parts of Illinois. Small town of about 3,000 people. So not a lot of opportunities growing up when it came to the pastime of golf. I grew up playing on just really a small community golf club, 9 holes, super small greens. I guess in today's terms, it's super short. An average par 3 or par 4 was maybe 350 yards at most. I grew up with my grandfather being my kind of inspiration to play golf. That was kind of our pastime together. So that was our time to bond and do that kind of stuff. So he was a golf enthusiast. He got me involved in being a golf enthusiast. I've been playing golf since I was probably 10 years old, all the way competitively starting in high school. One of the best things that probably ever happened to me was moving to the South, where you can play golf all year round. It's a tremendous improvement to your game when you don't have that 3-4 month off season where you're not playing. So when I moved to Georgia, obviously technology has also improved my game as well, but just that continuous playing, having a good group of people that you can play with all the time, that keeps you engaged in it, that's really elevated my experience and my capabilities.
But were your parents not golfers?
My mom was when she was younger, but how that goes from that generation after you have kids and everything, you just kind of have less time to do it. But my mom was a really good golfer. My dad was never really that much into golf. He had other interests, so it was just more on my mom's side and my grandfather on her side.
So did you just start playing with friends, or was it your grandfather that kind of pushed you towards?
Yeah, I mean, originally, when I was a small kid, 10, 11, 12, I was just playing with my grandfather. But then once you get into, high school years, I mean, my typical summer day, once I got into high school and maybe a little bit before that was, my mom and my parents, they would just drop me off at the golf course, and I would spend my entire day out there playing or looking for golf balls. I mean, in those days, you never bought a golf ball. It was whatever you could find, in the cornfield or, at the edges of the pond or wherever. that was just my typical, I guess the golf course was my babysitter during the summertime.
Not too bad.
Well, you've been to, as we said, you've been to Scotland 4 times, Ireland once. What attracted you initially to going over there and playing?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it goes back to just being a super golf enthusiast. I mean, of course, everybody, if you rank the majors, probably would say the Masters is the top of the 4, majors. But, for me, I always kind of place the Open Championship right below the Masters, just because, it's such a unique thing. First of all, you wake up in the morning and then the golf is on, which is kind of a rare thing. Second of all, at least where I grew up, these were exotic places, like,
Yeah.
It's summertime, it's 95 degrees in Illinois, and you're sitting there watching on TV golf where they got ski caps on, maybe 30-mile-an-hour sustained winds. It was just like they're playing golf on Mars or something like that. So it was very, unique to see it. And that kind of sticks with you. And, just being a golf enthusiast is one of those things like, I grew up understanding the history of golf, St. Andrews being the home of golf, old Tom Morris and all the stories behind that. I mean, I kind of grew up with that folklore kind of in the background. So finally, when you get to a point in your life where you have the abilities and the resources to go do it, it's just one of those things that I wanted to take advantage of.
Yeah. Well, we're glad that you've gone so many times, and I know how much you enjoy it over there. Do you think it's elevated your play? I mean, you talked about playing in the South, but what about having to learn to hit the different shots you have to hit to be able to play well in Scotland or Ireland?
Yeah, that's what I, keep telling everybody. It's 2 different forms of golf. I mean, me personally, like when we go over, I was thinking of all the different courses we've played over there. And I would say almost every one of them has been a links golf course, except for maybe one. I think maybe Nairn Dunbar might have been considered more of a parkland course. I'm not really sure, but that was probably the closest to a parkland course. So like in the United States, I would equate golf in the US as being more of target golf, where, you're aiming for the middle of the fairway, then you're aiming either for the front of the green, middle of the green, back of the green, type of thing. But, you expect that, hey, I'm going to hit the green, the ball's going to stay on the green. In Scotland, it's not that way. I mean, it literally, the first time we went over there, it took me 3 solid rounds of golf to finally get through my brain that you can't carry the ball onto the green all the time, that you have to basically plan for the run out. Even when your team, your tee to the fairway shots, you have to factor in where's the bunkers, how far is my ball going to roll out. It's really just a different experience all the way around. I mean, the fundamental elements are the same, but like I was telling Hayden when we were, playing in the Moray Open, it's like, sometimes you got to put the driver away and just accept the fact that, bogey sometimes is a good score. Sometimes you're going to be hitting, 3-4 irons into greens, which you typically wouldn't necessarily do so much on a par 4 here in the United States, at least at the, tee links that I play. It's just a different game, and you have to approach it different. And then you throw in the elements like the wind. I mean, you could hit anywhere like a 7-iron, could be for a 120-yard shot, or if it's downwind, with no bunkers in front of it, it could be for a 190-yard shot.
Yeah.
So it's just a totally different game.
Yeah, before we went on today, I was telling these guys that I put this course up behind me strategically. That's Portrose and Rosemarkie. And it was first time we played there. And I think we all came away with the feeling of, wow, what a wonderful golf course. And it was a windy day, and I hit 3-wood once, and then I hit
Where did that 3-wood go?
onto the beach. But I still made par on the hole.
Yeah.
But after that, I hit 2 hybrid the remainder of the round on par 4s and par 5s, and occasionally downwind I was hitting 8-iron.
Yeah.
Right. And because it was going
at 100
yards. What's that?
Like you hit 8-iron and you had like 150 in still.
No, I didn't.
No, it was a good. That was fine. On the 300, 350, you hit 8-iron, it bounce, it'd go 180. Yeah.
The hard thing about that day was it was a 20 to 30 mile an hour sustained crosswind.
Yeah, once we got to hole, what was it, 7, 8, it started really picking up.
Yeah. And the ball was just blowing everywhere side to side. So and also that was, at least for me, that was my last round of the week after a lot of golf. So, and the other thing, Jeff, that you need to, we need to talk about is, the differences between here and there is in the United States, a lot of people, myself included, 90% of the time you're riding in a cart. Over there, almost all the time you're walking, which is a huge difference.
Yeah.
You enjoy the round a lot more by walking. Also, you don't have the 95 sustained heat days like we do here in Atlanta. So it's the heat isn't beating you down. So when you're playing in 55 to 75 degree weather, I mean it's really pleasant to walk the courses over there.
Yeah, it almost warms you up a little bit.
Right, but
right.
doing it for a straight week, by the end of the week, your legs are feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Hayden calculated that. How many miles did we walk
It was like 40 or 50 miles.
in 8 days?
Yep.
Right.
Including the open when we walked around the course, 2-3 times.
Yeah.
So
Chris, you also joined Moray. What led you to that?
Yeah, well, the first time I went over there, which was probably 5 years ago, with COVID and everything, like 2 years kind of got, washed out and kind of are a blur. But the first time we went over there, that was kind of like, like a lot of people, what do you call them? Like, they're obsessed with the bag tag as opposed to the quality of the course that you're playing. It was more like that because we wanted to play St. Andrew's Old Course. We wanted to play Castle Stewart. We played Royal Dornoch. We played Royal Aberdeen. I mean, we played a lot of very high-end golf clubs. But kind of sprinkled into there were kind of the hidden gems. And, Moray is a prototypical hidden gem off the beaten path type of golf club. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't a certain element of the design of the golf club go back to old Tom Morris? Is my understanding.
Absolutely.
So there's a linkage back to the founding fathers of golf with this golf club. So, at that point in time, you were already a member of Moray. So you took us there because it's up north, very close to Royal Dornoch and in the Aberdeen, it's in kind of sandwich between Royal Aberdeen and Inverness and that area. So geographically, it was in the area that we were at. You included it in our itinerary, and it's a very high quality golf club. It's got 2 18s. Obviously, the old course is older than the new course, and the old course is a little bit nicer than the new course, but it's a 36 hole complex. So it's got a lot of golf opportunities. When we were there originally, you were telling us about the Moray Open, which after playing it the first time, I definitely wanted to come back and participate in the Moray Open because I love tournament golf. So, the Moray Open is kind of like, let's just equate it to almost like the similar format as like the US Amateur, where you have to do 2 rounds of stroke play qualifying, and then the top, 32 out of each division then qualify for the match play. And I'm a huge fan of match play golf. So, that like really gets me going when you can tell me I'm playing in a match play golf tournament.
All right, Chris, I'll let everybody know that Chris was the only person to make it to the match play that week. And
Right.
It was really awesome. We got to follow him a little bit and keep up and root for him, rooting for our American
right
in the field.
Yeah, this time I made it into the low handicap division, but I lost in my first round match. Last year or the pre-COVID year, I guess. I actually made it to the quarterfinals and really did well that year. So, but anyway, so Jeff got us on the first time. It was kind of the hidden gem course that we were playing. But once you get to know the people, I mean, the course is really nice. There's some great views because it's right on the coast. It's just one of those things that when we came back, a year or so later, I said, I just inquired. I said, what would it take to, become a member? And what I equate it to, Jeff, is a lot of people spend X amount of money to be parts of, community organizations or professional organizations or something like that. I mean, for example, Moray Golf Club, I think our annual subscription is like under $400.
Yeah.
And it's not because I'm looking to get $400 of value. It's I'm willing to pay $400 to be part of that, to help the club, because I know so many people there now. I'm kind of, to a certain degree, I consider myself part of the fabric of the club at this point. Right. I know you're more, ingrained into it than I am, but it's just something that I want to be a part of.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you something interesting, Chris. For a while, I helped, unofficially, I was the club historian. So when John Thompson was captain, he had me do research, and every newsletter that came out had a story that I wrote about the history of the club. And one of the things I found to be interesting, Chris, you mentioned this idea of the Moray Open being like the U.S. Amateur, right? Two rounds of stroke play, and then those guys get into the match play. In 1894, they held the first U.S. Open. And there were 12 players playing in that. The Moray Open that year had 111 players in it.
Right.
So there was a period of time where the Moray Open, first of all, the Moray Open's older than the U.S. Amateur,
right.
and every other tournament in the U.S. And so I find that just fascinating that we had a bigger tournament than the U.S. Open.
Right. I'll tell you right now, hands down, Moray Open is the best value in golf. Hands down. You're never going to get a better, I mean, setting the flights and everything to get over there. But once you're over there, for the amount of golf that's afforded to you, for the amount of money that you have to pay, I think, what is it, like £100 or something like that? Entry fee?
5 rounds, I think.
Yeah.
Well, plus they don't charge us to play in the they don't charge you guys to play in the Tri-Am or a practice round on Sunday, right. Or it's
you're
just
pretty much a member for the week.
Well, Chris, yeah. I would make one correction to what you said, and it's this. I agree 100%. The tournament is like the U.S. Amateur, blended with a member guest.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, and the other thing I'll take exception on, it is a good value until you have to buy meat. And then when we buy meat, it gets pretty pricey.
Right. That's true. Yeah. And also, well, actually, I was going to say that the alcohol doesn't cost me anything because I don't drink, but even the alcohol over there isn't even expensive.
Well, those Sprites were starting to add up.
Unfortunately for Hayden, maybe the medical bills after the alcohol might get expensive.
Okay. We don't have to go that direction.
Well, Chris, you've played, well, while we're on that trip, while we're on that area of the world, I took you guys to play 2 new courses. We played Cullen and we played Portrose and Rosemarkie. What are your thoughts on those 2 tracks?
Right. I mean, Cullen, other than there's a soup over there called Cullen Skank. I guess that's the only my only experience with the word Cullen, but I guess it's from Cullen Bay in that area. But one of the words that you're always going to hear about Scottish golf courses is the word quirky. It's like, oh, it's quirky. This, of course, it's quirky. I would argue every course over there is quirky in one way or another. For example, Moray Golf Club, it's quirky from the standpoint of you got fighter jets flying over the top of your round of golf all the time, which to me it annoys the heck out of people over there. But to me, when I go over there, I'm like,
it's awesome.
Entirely consumed with it, because how often do you have a fighter jet flying 50 feet above your head, landing or taking off?
And we had an air show.
We had an air show. Yeah, we had an air show the last time. I was sitting on like next to the number 3 green. I just sat down before my round and watched an hour-long air show that was going on at the Royal Air Force Base next door. So, I mean, every course is quirky. And I would say Cullen Bay is the quirkiest of the quirky, because, it was a very, I don't know, I guess, what would you equate it to? Like executive type golf course here in the United States, where it was like lots of par 3s, some par 4s, but like most of the golf courses over there, they just fit the golf course into the terrain that nature provides.
Yeah. And
nature provides a lot of obstacles there that you have to hit around these big rock formations, over the top of rock formations, big, high elevation changes. You're hitting, 30 yards up to a pin, or you're hitting, a 210-yard par three that's, 100 feet downhill. I mean, it was very quirky, but I think all of us probably enjoyed the heck out of that course because it was just a lot of fun.
Well, I think the
Another,
other thing, they weren't open when we got there. So I think it was you, Chris, that made the suggestion of let's drop down to 7 clubs or whatever.
right, exactly.
We
Because
carried
we had
it.
to carry our bags. I'll tell you what I tell people about Colin, I don't remember the last time I had that much fun playing golf. It was
Right.
just flat out fun.
Right. Yeah, like I left my driver in the car. So I think the longest club I had in my bag was my 3 hybrid, I think. So I played the whole round. The max I can hit my hybrid is like, 200 yards. So that was my peak distance for the day. But I had a ton of fun on it. And then the Fort Rose course, what was the origins of that? Wasn't when we were playing at Castle Stewart, one of the previous trips, one of our caddies, we asked him where he was a member at, and he kind of pointed across the whatever that is, the Firth of Murray or whatever body of water that was, and he pointed out to that little peninsula over there, and he says, that's where I'm a member at. And it's basically 18 holes that are all fit out on a little peninsula.
Yeah.
Yeah, 13th oldest club in the world, I believe.
1796. Remember that sign on 18?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
That's and the other thing, Mike McDonald, the general manager there, greeted us, made sure we had a good time.
Had him on the
Yeah.
podcast.
The hospitality over there is just unbelievable.
I've never had a bad experience with an individual at all over there, period.
Yeah.
All the people, whether it's at the hotel, the bed and breakfast, the restaurant, wherever. I mean, they're just nice, decent people. It's not like, you never catch somebody with an attitude or anything like that.
Well, when you were talking, Chris, it just reminded me, when you're talking about how nice people are, how about Jim and Lil Young?
Yeah.
You ever meet 2 nicer people on the planet? I mean, she hugs us like we're her son.
Right.
I mean, she's just amazing.
I mean, even the owner of our Airbnb that we had,
Yeah.
Graham and whatever the name of his band was, Graham and the Young Guns or something like that. But super nice, catered to every one of our needs. I think, he was bringing us breakfast on, days that we were having to leave out early in the morning. I mean, they just go above and beyond, because they value having, golf tourism, people coming over to support their economy.
Yeah.
He even left us some tea to drink as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'll explain that joke. The Airbnb had, what would you say, for decoration, he filled whiskey bottles with tea so that I guess he drank the whiskey and then he's like, oh, I'm going to put them up here. I'll put tea in it because it looks like whiskey. Well, all the tops were already screwed off. So we naturally thought, oh, look, he bought us whiskey. He opened it because he wants us to drink it. Dale and I put some in some ice and glass, and we're like, man, I think this is old. This doesn't taste right. So we tried another bottle and we're like, wow, this tastes the exact same. And it wasn't until we asked him until we realized it was actually tea.
That's so funny.
We poured in a whiskey glass.
Well, Chris, you mentioned you've never run into someone that you didn't like. Have you run into a sticky toffee pudding yet that was inedible over there?
Not inedible, but no 2 sticky toffee puddings are the same. Some are better than others. If you got connections, you might get more sticky and less toffee, or you may get more toffee and less sticky. It's just, and then if you're really lucky, maybe they have the combo sticky toffee pudding with ice cream, which is, like the grand slam.
And then mac and cheese for
desserts
for your entree.
Right.
Yeah, mac and cheese. That was great. Chris, can you've been several times, well, multiple times, 5 times. Is there something about this most recent trip that you came away, something that surprised you, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's one thing that stands out, and that's the accommodations that we had this time. In the past, I mean, everybody in our group, wants to stay in their own room so that you're not sharing, accommodations with other guys and stuff like that. You know, definitely because one of our guys snores like a freight train, so nobody wants to stay in a room with him. So, so before we always stayed like in bed and breakfast and things like that, which has always been nice. But this time we took the Airbnb route and I think it was Airbnb anyways, but got a super nice house. I mean, it was probably the most luxurious accommodations that we ever could have hoped for. And not only was the accommodations great, it was like 100 yards walking distance from the third tee box from the club. So it was perfectly located. We could walk back and forth from the club if we wanted to, because we had people kind of coming and going, especially during the tournament when you had different tee times and different things going on where not everybody could go at the same time. So it was well positioned. The house was great. Another thing was, we had a tour of the Windswept Brewery, which I would say your average person might drink a beer that's windswept, but they wouldn't even know that that's a locally brewed, beer. And what did we have? We had a probably 2 hour long, beer tasting experience with the owners of the brewery. So we got to see the tour of it.
That reminds me, Chris, our shipment got lost.
Oh, okay.
Right. So we didn't have a tracking number because I went with the low cost shipping. Right. So they gave me a deal on everything. I had to pay again, but they're paying the shipping, and it went out today. So should be here in 5 to 7 days, she said.
So those are the kind of things, we've always discussed, what's the value in going with, a company like yours. I mean, I sat down with Jeff and he's actually showed me, I mean, he's been going, we talked about this before. I've been going for like five years or something like that. I mean, Jeff's been going for what, like 20 years. 25. And you've cultivated so much knowledge as far as, a lot of tour companies, they may recommend golf clubs that they've never seen, they've never played on. I guarantee about any golf course that you would recommend to a client, you've set foot on the ground, you've played with them, you've cultivated relationships with people on the ground in those areas. I've seen your database of all the clubs that you've played, how you rate them for different categories of playability, what the views are, whatever, how costly are they, all of these different type of criteria. And I don't know, it seems like when I saw your database of clubs that you've looked at or played on, it was like, I don't know, 100 different clubs or something. I mean, it was a crazy amount. So, there's these are the kind of things that, like 5 years ago, if I would have just said, I feel like I'm going to go to Scotland, I'm just going to book myself a trip, I never could have developed an experience that I would have, that I actually got by going with Jeff and him booking it, because, there's so many things that you don't know what you don't know when you go on a trip until you experience it.
Yeah. Well, you hit on something, Chris, I think is important. You don't even drink beer, and you like the Windswept Brewery tour.
I did. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, I thought it was fascinating, but that's really what we try to do. I think, we take pride in finding great golf courses, hidden gems like Cullen or Fortrose or Murray for that matter. Mm-hmm. But it's the off-course experience that we want to curate as well. Right. So Windswept Brewery. A couple of years ago, you and I went to the Open Championship at Royal Portrush.
Right. We did Carnoustie prior to that. I mean, like on this last trip, and we had done it on some previous trips as well around Lossiemouth. There's a town out there called, what is it, Finhorn or something like that? Like a little fishing community. I mean, that is so far off the beaten path that your average person, unless you had inside knowledge about it, in this particular pub restaurant kind of place, it's so far off the beaten path, it would never been on your radar if you were just Googling things to do, as opposed to, working with somebody that actually has kind of on the ground experience in those, specific areas.
I mean, I was thinking about that, Chris. I've never had better fish and chips than there. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And like you
Right.
said, nobody knows about it. Or
Just the
well,
locals. I don't think your average person outside of, northern Scotland would even be able to find Findhorn on a map.
well, we've got some clients going over next May, and I've got them playing at Murray, right, in May.
Mhm.
And I said, on your way home, you have to stop at Findhorn for
Yeah.
fish and chips because they're going
You
to be
know,
staying in Inverness.
one thing, that's another thing. That little community I stayed at, when I was flying back because I was flying out of Inverness. Great little just town, kind of in the middle of nowhere that, it was just kind of a great little stopover. But one of our previous times, we were over there, we played in the Murray Open. Phil and I went over to Loch Ness, which is, it's one of those things. It's more mythical than anything, but actually to go set your eyes on Loch Ness where the monster is and all of that kind of stuff is, it's, I mean, I've been around the world, and that was a very special experience.
You know what? That reminds me of something. Not Loch Ness, but going back to the people thing, it just hit me. Who picked you up from the airport?
Yeah. So yeah, like this time. So the rest of the guys on this trip, they all flew into Edinburgh, but I was just more interested in getting up to Lossiemouth to start practicing. I think I'm probably the most, I don't know, amped up of the golfers of the group that went over there that, is more
Most
interested in,
competitive.
yeah, the most competitive of the golfers. So, I was really gunning to improve my performance in the Murray Open. So I wanted to get over there, start practicing. And also I'm a member there. So, I got kind of free privileges to play at this point since I, have an annual subscription there. But anyways, in my previous time that I played the Murray Open, one of the guys in my threesome, because you go out threesomes, was Ryan Sherwood, who happened to work on the greenskeeping staff at the club. And so we got to be friends. I follow each other on Facebook and kind of keep in touch and stuff like that. And with the other guys coming into Edinburgh, I was coming into Inverness. They were going to the Open in St. Andrews. I was not. So I wasn't going to have good transportation to get over there. And basically, Ryan volunteered to come over and pick me up, which is about an hour drive away from Lossie. And, that's just the kind of hospitality that you get.
Yeah.
Where, in a lot of places, a lot of cultures, you just don't get that kind of friendly experience.
Well, Chris, talk about too. We talked a little bit about this before we went on, and that was about how egalitarian, if that's the right word, the golf clubs are over there, right?
Right.
Yeah, give us your thoughts on that because I agree.
Yeah, we've talked about this, and this kind of ties into the Butcher story. Is you go over there, and first of all, the clubs, like you go to St. Andrews, like now, like I've been to Augusta National, go to the Masters and stuff like that. Like if I drive over to Augusta, there's no way in hell that they're going to allow me to drive up Magnolia Lane to go check out Amen Corner, July 5th or something like that, because if it's not that week of the Masters, nobody with, regular credentials in life are going to get on Augusta National. First time we went over to St. Andrews, we literally parked right next to the road hole. We're talking to the golfers and the caddies on the road hole, on the green. We walked across the Swilcan Bridge. We literally, it's almost like a park. I mean, it's just part of the community. And that's just the way golf is over there. It's integral into the community. It's more of a everyman's type of property, where in the United States, if you're kind of in the golf culture, it's more, hopefully it becomes more and more of an everyman's type of game. But historically, it has been more for the, higher incomes, more well-off type of people. We're over there, the butcher's a great golfer, the barber's a great golfer. Like you said, the milkman, Milky, he's a great he's a great, scratch golfer. It's just like, it's first of all, it's like the club in Lossiemouth, Murray, it's integral to the community. And it's kind of the central focus point of the entire town. It's kind of the great meeting place for everybody to come together and participate in the community.
Yeah. Do you remember what we did on the way out of town that first trip?
Yeah, like at St. Andrews.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like, I don't know, 6:30 in the morning. I mean, the sun comes up over there at like 4 in the morning. So, the sun was up and it was, 6:30, something like that. One of our friend, Gus, had spread his father's ashes right on the 18th tee box. So we had some leftover scotch, and I think, like I said, I don't drink, but the other, the three that were in our trip, they drank a nice toast to our friend Gus's father, and we left whatever remnants of the scotch there on the tee for the rest of the people to partake.
Yeah, so when we walked off, there was an empty bottle of scotch there, or not empty. There was still a little bit left.
Yeah,
Right.
it was probably third full.
I can't imagine doing that at Augusta.
Yeah, I think we have a nice picture of it where we had kind of a low angle with the bottle with the RNA in the background.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great photo.
Love that. So you've played tons of courses, obviously, over there and over here. Tell us if you like Parkland courses better or links courses.
In the United States, you pretty much only get Parkland type courses. So I get enough of that over here. So when we go to Scotland, we go to Ireland. I'm entirely obsessed with just playing links golf, just because, the conditions, like, living here in Georgia, we don't get that much wind. We don't get that much rain. To be honest with you, if it rains, you're not playing because it's usually a thunderstorm to go along with it. So, you don't get those extreme conditions to play in. I mean, for example, we played at Cruden Bay the first time I went, and in that trip we had sunshine all the way down to sleet that particular day with like 30 to 40 mile an hour sustained winds. It was by far the most extreme conditions I've ever played in. But that's the experience that you're going over to get. I mean, it kind of equates, what was it, when Tiger Woods kind of got blown out of the Open Championship, maybe at Beerfield or something like that. I mean, that's the kind of experience that you don't want to get it all week long, but you kind of want to get a flavor of it while you're over there. And those are the kind of things that, that I like going over there. That and the differences, playing knockdown shots, playing, you may be putting 30, 40 yards off the green. I mean, you can't do that here in the United States because we're playing on, Bermuda grass here. You got bunkers in front of the green. Over there, you're playing shots that you would never dream of playing.
And you can easily have like 150 foot putt on a green because the greens are so massive.
Yeah, and like at St. Andrews on the old course, you got double greens. I mean, you got all these types of things that and the bunkers. I mean, the bunkers are a totally different story because you'll never get some of the lies in bunkers that you do over there. You're hitting backwards. I got a video of me when we were playing Royal Aberdeen where my ball was wedged up in the far left corner of the bunker, and I'm on my hands and knees, hitting out of the bunker. I mean, those are the types of experiences you just can't replicate.
Yeah. Well, Chris, I feel the same way that you do. I am absolutely obsessed. And I'll tell you the other thing, when our guys, our weekend golf group, when they go on golf trips to Pinehurst or Myrtle Beach or Hilton Head or someplace in Florida, I never go. Every dime I have that's disposable for golf goes to Scotland. I want to, I'll tell you the other thing. When I play over here, I don't care what course it is. It's just one more round till I get to Scotland, right? Or to links golf. I love England. I mean, Chris, you haven't been to England or Wales. The courses are just fantastic there as well. But I love finding new courses, playing them for the first time. It's just the best. Now, you talked about some of the relationships I've cultivated over there. But I want to remind you, because I think you've got a better recollection of this. You met a woman from Peachtree City.
Yeah, right.
Or Fayette, from Fayette County anyway.
No, it's Peachtree City. So, so the people out there that don't know, we're all kind of headquartered around Peachtree City, Georgia, which is, south of Atlanta by 30, 40 miles.
Golf cart town.
Yeah, it's a golf cart town.
What everybody knows.
It's I mean, I guess kind of like a lot of clubs in the UK and in Scotland. I guess Peachtree City is the closest you can come to that because the city is kind of known for the golf culture and the golf cart community and all of that kind of stuff. So Yeah, we were, at night they have different at the Murray Open at the club. They have different type of entertainment and that kind of stuff and dinners and whatnot. And one night we were at the club and there it gets kind of chilly at night. And I was wearing like a pullover, kind of like what I'm wearing here, and I left it on one of the chairs when we were walking out or going someplace. And I said, "Oh, I got to go back and get my jacket." And when I walked over there, a lady said, "Hey, are you guys from Georgia?" And I said, "Yeah, a bunch of us are over here." And she goes, "There's a lady around here that's also from Georgia." And she goes, "I'll go get her." Anyway, so she brought her over there and she goes, "Where are you guys from?" And I said, "Peachtree City." And she goes, "No way." And she was from Peachtree City. It was like, just shows you how small the world is because, we were, you know, I don't know. She was dating one of the many John Thompsons that
Yeah,
that reside in Lossy Mouth, because I think there's like a dozen of them.
that's too funny. You're absolutely right. I've met at least 3, so that's hilarious. Now, I want the 2 of you to tell me about your relationship with the butcher. Hayden,
We
let's
have,
start with you.
yeah, we
I
have
have a different
different experiences
relationship.
with the butcher.
Well,
Mine's more PG, where Hayden's is a little bit more.
the
I don't know,
butcher,
hard.
you don't. If you're from America, you don't drink with the butcher.
You
The
can't
butcher.
outdrink the butcher.
You cannot. It's a death
Wait, how
sentence.
did we? I've met him in years past, and heck, I remember him when he was like a teenager, right? And obviously now he's got a family, but how did we connect with him?
His
I
uncle.
know I ran into him in the bar, but
Well,
he
did
played
one
with
of
us on
play with-
Sunday.
Oh,
Yeah,
he
he
played
played-
with us in the Triam.
Yeah,
in the Triumph. Yeah, he was in
Quad
my foursome. It's a quad A on this year. They did foursomes, but
Right.
and pretty much every day after that in the bar after
Right.
the round,
it was a
we
different
would see him.
competition.
Yeah, but Chris, so Hayden had a drinking problem with the butcher, or I shouldn't say a problem, a drinking relationship
If you
with.
say
Right.
I had a drinking problem, that sounds really bad.
Yeah, you don't have a drinking problem,
Let's elaborate on that.
But Chris, you actually went to his shop.
Yeah,
I mean, I
exactly.
went to his shop as well, but holy cow.
Yeah, so yeah, literally, he's a butcher. He's the town butcher. So I mean, like here, you go to Kroger to get your meat, or if you're, really high end, you go to, Fresh Market or something like that to get your meat. But I mean, I'm aware we have like one butcher in Tyrone around here, but there's not a lot of, like small town butchers, or like we might have had, you know, 30, 40 years ago. But it's just, again, it's like an integral part of the community. Like if you want meat, you go to Brent the butcher to get your meat. So he was in our foursome, kind of to be our kind of, I don't know, our chaperone or whatever, to show us around the course and stuff, for the quad am practice round. But then after that, we wanted to cook out one night, so he said, "Hey, tell me what it is you want." Or actually, I think he volunteered to actually kind of give us a different medley of different type of meats
Yeah.
to cook out. So when we went to go pick up, the meats, he gave us a full tour of the shop. He's also a baker. He owns the bakery next door. So we were kind of getting, the full treatment, full tour of his business, which was nice.
How
And
many
also, we
pounds?
have other things. We had other joint interests. We're both into cryptocurrency and that kind of stuff. So we had a lot of kind of common interests in life.
How many pounds of meat did we go through?
I don't know, about
It was
200
like
$200 worth of it. So I
Well,
don't know how
have
many.
have either of you ever seen a tomahawk steak that big in your life?
No,
only on Instagram.
no.
That
And luckily,
was
our
on-
friend Dale knows how to cook steak really well. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
it
Absolutely.
was really good. So
So, Chris, I want to hear what's your favorite course that you've played in Ireland, and what's your favorite course in Scotland so far?
okay, so Ireland. First of all, there's a lot of commonality between golf courses in Ireland and Scotland, but in a lot of ways, there's a lot of differences. In Ireland, you get more of the grassy kind of knolls and that kind of the big humps and bumps with tall grasses, kind of as your deterrent to not get off the fairways. in Scotland, they have if you've never played with gorse bushes, then it's really hard to comprehend what a gorse bush is and what kind of a hazard it is, because it's really more penal than having water down the sides of the fairways, because at least with water, it's a lost ball and a hazard, and you can take a drop.
That's a
With
good
gorse
point.
bushes, if you hit it into it, 99% of the time, you're not going to find your ball, and it's effectively a lost ball back to the tee box or back to your it's a two-stroke
Yeah.
penalty. So you have to play very conservative around the gorse bushes and stuff like that. So, there's a big difference between, that's one of the big differences between the two places. So, I would say in Ireland, my favorite course so far has been Ballybunion, because it's just such a historical, notorious type of Irish, golf club. Plus, my friend Phil, he was looking so forward so much to
Yeah.
playing it. So I think it got a lot of hype in my brain that was going to be the premier course that we were going to play there, and it definitely delivered on that. When it comes to Scotland, I think you're almost obligated to say the old course of St. Andrews, just not so much because the course is so great. It's just that the city of it's all the things that go along with it. It's the city of St. Andrews. It's you know, the quirkiness of the road hole, of hitting over the corner of the hotel, the road hole bunker, all the legends of that. And then there's no finer walking golf than coming up the 18th of the old course of St. Andrews, even though that the hole itself is pretty much kind of a cupcake, type of
Right.
hole. But if you kind of set that aside and just say, hey, what's your favorite courses that you've played over there, just from a pure playability and how much you enjoyed the course? Really, a couple of them would be Castle Stewart is just a great golf course, kind of up around Inverness. And then the second one is, I want to get a second shot at Cruden Bay, which is over by Aberdeen. Like I said, when we played Cruden Bay, it was a very extreme conditions, but it has some just fantastic golf holes on it. And in fact, I sent you a link, and I would encourage some people. There was like a little YouTube video. What was it? Of Nick Faldo and some guy playing on
Right. Yeah,
Cruden
I
Bay.
sent you that. Yeah. Or you
Yeah.
sent it to me, I guess.
Yeah, I sent it to you, and then I think you attached it to your subscribers and stuff like that. But it just gives you a feel of that golf club, and it's just got some great golf holes on
Yeah, Chris, we, as you mentioned, we played in a very inhospitable condition that day. But that is the one course that reminds me of Ireland and Scotland. Huge dunes. The dunes
it.
are, you're playing from elevated tees in some instances. You got more blind shots. It's a great track. But I'll tell you the other thing, Chris. You talked about the walk up 18 at St. Andrews, and I agree. There's nothing like it. But I think the 18th at Moray, the old course at Moray, it's a better 18, and nothing gives me better joy than playing up that.
Especially in the Murray Open, where it's almost like an amphitheater,
Right.
because the green is elevated, the club is elevated from the green. So especially like when they have the championship rounds going of the match play, it's you may have several hundred people just sitting around the club, just watching everybody come up the 18th hole, putting out, and that kind of thing. So I agree, it's very spectacular. There's a lot of commonality between the two, because you've got the first hole and the 18th hole paralleling each other, going in opposite directions. So there's a lot of commonality there.
Well, you've played a lot of golf in your life. You talked about your favorite courses in Ireland and Scotland. Overall, what's your favorite golf course that you've played?
Well, again, I mean, my favorite. I'm never going to have a better experience than the day I had playing the old course in St. Andrews. The additional element of that story is my friend Kevin and I. We were actually lucky enough to play 36 holes that day on the old course in St. Andrews, which is, from a visitor standpoint, a golf tourist standpoint, is probably close to unheard of, because of the difficulty getting onto the old course. And it's just because a couple of the guys in our group couldn't attend, so therefore we'd already paid for the rounds, and the people at at the club there were nice enough to allow us to use those additional rounds of golf after we played our first round. So, that was like super nice. The rest of it, for the most part, I'm kind of like you. Most of my disposable golf money goes to go into Scotland. So I don't really play that many courses outside of my membership over here. Probably the most high-end club that I've played is Shoal Creek over in Alabama. It
Yeah,
was a super nice course.
I played it
Um,
once.
that's
I played it
probably
once.
that's probably the most elitist course that I've ever played on.
Yeah, but Shoal Creek is a wonderful club. There's no, wonderful track, but I'm with you. The courses in Scotland are a lot more memorable, and the overall experience is just unbeatable over there.
Yeah, I really wish I had a do-over on some elements of that first trip we took over there. Like right now, I couldn't tell you a single thing about Royal Dornoch because I was so overwhelmed that day with excitement. Um, it was my first round of golf playing, in Scotland. It
Yeah.
just went by like in a blink of an eye that day.
Well, there's
I
always
could,
next year.
yeah, I mean, it's just
Well,
like I couldn't hardly tell you anything about that round of golf. Maybe the first hole I could tell you about in the practice green. That's about the only things I can really remember.
yeah. Well,
And
I'll
that's
tell
a
you
great
what.
golf course.
Oh, it's an amazing golf course, and I was there probably 2 years before you went with Mike Adams and Gus and a buddy of mine from Pittsburgh, and there was an open tee time there in the afternoon. So Mike and Gus walked another 18,
Yeah.
at dusk. Well, finished at dusk, and absolutely loved it.
And that's another course that's kind of off the beaten path that your average tourist golfer wouldn't go to just because it's so far north. I mean, it's probably getting more play than it might have in the past, but it's so far removed from the rest of the typical, all the courses around St. Andrews in that area.
Yeah,
It's a haul to get up there. I remember that.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's a haul to get to Lossy too, but
Yeah. Yeah.
um, well, we take a lot of people over, Chris, to Scotland, and for the most part, they're people like you were, and I was, and Hayden was this year, like your first time there. What recommendations or advice do you have for people going to play links golf for the first time?
Well, first off, get really good rain gear. Now, we've been lucky lately that we haven't, in fact, our last two trips over there, I don't think we hardly got rained on at all. We did. I don't think we got rained on at all
Couple
this
holes.
trip. Yeah, maybe a couple holes, but our first trip over there when we played Cruden Bay, we got rained on. When we were in Ireland playing Ballybunion, we got rained on. You definitely don't want to have substandard rain gear over there. You know, the other thing is, you definitely got to pack for all the different types of conditions, and also, practice in advance that, or you need to, I guess, precondition yourself that you can't play the same style of golf that you do in the United States when you go over there. You got to be open-minded that, you know, like when you watch the British Open, that, you know, I got to be willing to try some of these crazy shots that I typically wouldn't play in the United States. So, those are the key things, and get it into your brain quicker than I did that you can't carry the ball all the way to the pin and expect it to stop.
Yeah.
Well, I think Hayden got a lesson watching Jim Young play. He hit 7-iron from all over the green, and that thing was like a magic wand.
Right.
Right. I mean,
Yep.
he had a blow up hole where he got in the gorse twice at Fortrose and Rosemarkie, and took a 9 on a par 4, and that was the end of his being competitive that day. But if you take that hole out,
Yeah.
I don't know how old he is. He's probably 75. He
He's
hits it a
solid.
long way. He's
Beautiful
two-time
swing.
champion at club champion at Creo, 40 years ago. But the guy's got an unbelievable golf game.
Yeah.
The other advice is don't take on the gorse.
Oh,
Otherwise, you're going to end up like you've gone head to head with a pack of cats or something. Because, like I said, until you've experienced trying to hit out of the gorse, what kind of damage it can do to your skin or to your clothing or whatever, it's harsh. So
You remember number 2 on the old course at Murray is one of the most difficult tee shots because you've got about 100 yards, well, maybe like 70 yards, and the course is completely engulfed on each side of the
oh
fairway.
yeah, it's like tunnel vision. I mean, if you replace the gorse with pine trees, you'd have no problem playing those courses.
Yeah,
But as soon as you make a gorse where it's so penal to hit it into it,
so
I mean,
thick.
it alters your game. It alters your strategy that you play because, like I said, if you hit into it, it's a 2-stroke penalty because you got to go back to your, previous point of play.
Well, and then throw in the wind, throw in the fact that you're in a competitive round in the Murray Open,
Yeah,
and that tunnel gets even tighter. It's like looking down the barrel of a shotgun trying to get
right.
the ball.
And then the new course at Murray is even tighter than the old course at Murray because it's shorter, and they're using the gorse as a way to, you know,
Yeah, make it
limit
harder.
which clubs that you're hitting.
I really
and
needed
stuff
it
like
to get
that.
harder.
Yeah. So
That's funny. So Chris, is there anything left on your golf bucket list?
yeah, definitely. I mean, first of all, kind of staying with the theme of, Scottish golf, I definitely eventually want to round out and play all of the open rota courses. I mean, not at one. I mean, I'm not a person that's going to want to go over there and drop, 5-6 grand to go play nothing but the premier courses. But I definitely like to have, say, one premier course, in the rotation of courses that we're playing, on any given year. So, definitely the ones that are in Scotland. I would definitely like Carnoustie. I haven't played Carnoustie. I would love to play that. If we were ever to go back to Ireland, I'd love to play Portrush. Because I've been on them to watch the Open, so I can see the quality of the golf course. But I mean, that's probably one of the most challenging things when you go to the Open, or like when you go to Augusta National. It's like you feel cheated that you're there to watch, but you don't get to play.
Right, exactly.
In the United States,
Chris, you've only played one then, St. Andrew.
Yeah,
in the Open Rota.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, Dale. I've played all of them, including the ones that no longer host. So there's like 13 or I forget the number, 13 or 14. Dale's got one to go. Birkdale.
Okay, and that's in England, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the United States, there's probably the one place I really want to play that I actually, have to that you actually anybody has the opportunity to play would be Whistling Straits. Some of my friends have said, "Hey, let's go out and play Pebble Beach." To be honest with you, I'm not that excited about Pebble Beach just because I think they take advantage of the situation and charge you too much money to play that course where you have to stay on the property, and then it's just too expensive for what I'm willing to pay.
Yeah, I played Pebble Beach right after my mom died. My dad came. I was living in LA. My dad came out to visit, and I was married at the time. And we drove up the coast. We played Pebble, and it was $115 in like 1989, I guess.
Wow.
And my dad was like, "How can you afford this?" And I said, "Dad will never pay this much money again to play a round of golf," because that was, a round of golf. Then you could play on a public course for $18, or, I mean, 115 was just unheard of, right? It was like all the money in the world back then, and now,
Yeah, you go to. I was just in Denver for my sister's wedding, and just random course in the mountains, $175 for no reason. Just unbelievable.
Yeah.
There's some other courses like, what's the course that they play the match play on, like Austin Country Club, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to play that one just because it looks like it has some just incredibly scenic golf holes. Also, Chambers Bay out in, where is that, like Oregon or something like that.
Yeah.
That's another one that would be nice to play. But again, I guess if you gave me $2,000 and said you could, go play where you'd want to, I'd take the $2,000 and go to Scotland and have a good time over there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Chris, Whistling Straits is, links golf.
Yeah, that's the closest.
Links golf.
Yeah.
I played there. I feel the same way that you do. So I had some prospective clients that told Hayden and I recently that they're not going to Scotland, they're going to Bandon Dunes, right? Which is fine. But I think they're going to be surprised that they're going to spend as much money going out there and playing Bandon Dunes as they would if they went for a similar length trip to Scotland. And they're going to Bandon for 5 days. I wouldn't recommend people going to Scotland for 5 days. 7 or 8 days would be better. But
if you did, it'd be similar.
Yeah, it'd be a similar price.
Mhm.
But anyway, Chris, we really do appreciate the great things that you said about the service that we provide, and we try to impress upon our clients that we really do want to go out of our way to create not just unique golf experiences, but unforgettable travel experiences, right? Where you come back and you're like, wow. And I know you've traveled all over the world. You've seen a lot of interesting things, like Machu Picchu is an example. And we really do strive to give our guests those types of experiences that are literally unforgettable. And we're glad that we've been able to deliver some of that for you and our friend.
Yeah, I just feel really blessed that first of all, that somehow we linked up through our connection through the kind of the same golf club and stuff like that. Because to be honest with you, had I not, originally, people should understand the first time I went over there, we just went over as friends. I mean,
Right.
it wasn't part of your company or anything like that. It was just like, hey, I'm going over to Scotland to play golf. You want to go, type of thing. And to be honest with you, had it not been for that, I'd still be waiting to go to Scotland.
Yeah.
Because it's just one of those things. There's just so many mental obstacles that it's like, oh, I got to sit and research all of this. Where am I going to get a car over there? Oh, I got to drive on the left-hand side of the road. I mean, there's just all of these on and on and on obstacles. To be honest with you, the only obstacle I had to overcome, I had to write a check. That was the only, there's literally, and book an airfare to get over there, and everything else was taken care of. And I mean, it's really hard to put I'm like, what's the value of my time, of how many hours I would have to invest in researching and booking. And at the end of the day, you do all of that, are you going to get the same experience that you would from somebody, like I said, that has had boots on the ground, has seen all of these places, cultivated all of these relationships? I know for a fact I would not have ever had the same experiences that I've had on the trips.
Well, we appreciate that. And we're, I think, Chris, I have 2 businesses. I do business coaching and the golf business. And someone said to me recently, well, I know which one you love more, right? Thinking that this golf thing is just that great. And I said, actually, I love them equally. I really get excited about coaching my clients, but I'm equally as excited about introducing people to different cultures. And again, it's not just the golf, but and we joked about sticky toffee pudding or windswept brewery or haggis or
Right.
or going on a castle tour or whatever. But those types of experiences make the trips all the more memorable, right?
Absolutely.
I could never have sticky toffee pudding again without thinking of Chris Fear.
Right. And and it's been a life-changing thing, because now I'm a member of a club in Scotland. I mean, if my grandfather was alive, I would probably blow his mind that the things he cultivated in me at a young age have led to me being part of something like that.
Right.
And it's just one of those things that has so many tentacles in your life that it just changes. You just never know where it's going to go from here. So I feel like I've really been blessed by the whole experience.
Excellent. Yes. Well, and I think before you go, you need to show the crest on your jacket.
Yeah.
In case Stevie and John and Derek and those guys, the butcher.
Yeah, there we go. It's Moray Golf Club. And also, while we're here, I'll show my two trophies from winning the tournaments when we were over there.
Jeff,
I got a couple of those as well, Hayden. How about you? Pull up your trophy.
Yeah, sorry. Wait, I actually do.
Yeah, you didn't tell the story about how I won the second.
Oh, yeah.
What about this one? You
Is that
remember
your
that?
best dressed award?
What is that, your spelling bee trophy from fifth grade or
No,
something?
Chris, this is where I beat you on the playoff hole in the two-man tournament.
Oh, okay.
Ooh, that was a great tournament too. But the other thing about Chris, real quick, is behind him, he's got framed in that lovely frame, looking down the fairway of 18 at Moray Golf Club. So he is a fan. And then,
Love it.
Chris, what you asked? You just asked me a question that just flew right by me.
No, I said when I won the second trophy, the one in Ireland, where we had to stop
Oh
because
yeah,
our friend Phil somehow miraculously found an extra stroke on his handicap in the van at the end of the tournament, that we had to have an emergency putt off in the middle of nowhere, Ireland.
yeah. And you know, it's funny. I'm getting a call from a client right now. So as soon as we're done, we'll have to go. Yeah, this was funny. So for those of you that don't know, one of the things that we do for our clients is we put together a final day trophy or final day tournament. And Chris, we do this for our clients now, right? We help them set up a tournament, and I give them that trophy, right? And we tell them how to run the tournament, you know, or we give them suggestions. It's up to them to do it. And the idea of our tournament that we've been doing for almost 15 years now, or no, I take that back, 20 years, is that we play a low net final round. Everyone kicks in $100, and the winner takes $400. They get that trophy, and it's low net. And we played at Enniscrone in Ireland, and we had to get to Dublin or to our hotel near Dublin, and so we were in a rush. So we didn't add up the scores. We weren't sure who won, and so we.
Well, I was pretty sure who won because Phil just had to avoid the triple bogey on the last hole, and you know, he got stuck in I don't know, fairway bunkers, greenside bunkers, about every bunker on the golf hole, you know, on that 18th hole. And he, you know, I don't want to use the word choked it away, but you know, you do the math.
So I wasn't sure who had won, and so we're driving, and Phil, as Chris said, pencil whipped his way into a tie for first, and we're literally driving through the Irish countryside. I see a golf course, a parkland course. It was fairly nondescript, although I shouldn't say that since we haven't played it. We pulled off, and we decided to settle that with a putt off. And there were
a $400 putt off.
And so there were two young guys there. When I say they were kids, really, who when they heard how much we were playing for, how much they were playing, Chris and Phil were playing for, they wanted to jump in for the 400. But to Chris's surprise, Phil took them to, it had to be 18 holes. I mean, it
was forever.
And so Chris won in a putt off at Carrick-on-Shannon, wherever that is in the middle of Ireland. I mean, it must be dead center in the
right. That was probably a bit, you know, talk about, I mean, that was just a really fun, that's just one of those fun experiences that, you know, a great story came out of, you know, out of nothing, you know, just.
Yeah. And I've got a great picture of you holding the trophy, kissing it in front of the Carrick-on-Shannon sign.
In the parking lot.
That was great fun. Well, Chris, I hope that the three of us have the occasion to make many more trips together to Scotland. It's always fun to travel with you and to play with you and to watch you go deep into the Moray Open.
Right. It's getting to the end of the year. That's when we always start talking about our next trip over there, you know, for the next summer. So
yeah, we need to start talking about that. Yeah, we need to talk about that.
Because I'm always usually the first one to start saying, okay, what's the plan? What's the plan? What's the plan? You know?
Actually, you know who did it last year? It was Ed. Ed spurred us because we were kind of in COVID still. And then, you know, so I blame him, and we should shame him into going next year because he'd really enjoy it as well.
Yeah, you can't start it and then not go.
Right. Anyway, Chris, it's been a real pleasure having you on. You did a wonderful job. Yes, and everyone, we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris. Thank you again to everybody who tuned in and stayed till the end. I hope you enjoyed Mr. Chris and his experiences in links golf. I hope that gets you and your itch to play. And hopefully, whenever you're ready, let us know so we can start planning your trip. And we hope to see you next week. Thank you.